With the 2025 Arizona Cardinals training camp just around the corner, today we're going to be diving into the biggest position battles heading into the 2025 season. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into another video. Definitely do me a huge favor, smack up that like button, subscribe for more Arizona Cardinals content. On this channel, we're covering the Arizona Cardinals news, breaking news, conversational pieces, everything surrounding your favorite team. So subscribe it up. It's absolutely for free. Now, we will be doing a giveaway contingent if we hit 17K before the end of July of 2025. So make sure you go ahead and hit that red button and put on the post notification bell on as well, just so you're aware when we drop the next video or when we go live, and you could potentially walk away with the new Arizona Cardinal jersey. So let's go and get started here, everybody. Let's talk about the biggest position battles heading into the 2025 training camp. And now when I'm taking a look at the Arizona Cardinals depth chart just in general, obviously we still got to cut it down to the final 53, but overall I feel like the Cardinals have done a very good job, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, with adding so many good defensive pieces on the defensive line, adding some more pieces in the cornerback room, that I'm very confident with who we have going into this year's training camp. Now, the offensive side of the ball, I would be a little bit more confident with adding maybe a veteran wide receiver, but it feels like the Arizona Cardinals are more than happy with running it back with the current wide receiving core, and if they feel confident, then we're going to have to kind of see exactly with where that stands. But the quarterback room, I love that they add Jacoby Brissett. The running back core seems to be the same from 2024 now going into 2025. Tight end core, exactly the same. And then you have the pieces on the offensive side of the offensive line, which honestly a lot of people don't want to give them as much credit, but I think they actually had a pretty solid year last year in 2024. Now, yes, we need Jonah Williams to step up into that role. We're going to be having Isaiah Adams most likely in that right guard position. He's going to have to step up really, really big going into his year two. You got Fro Holt, you got Evan Brown, and then of course you got Paris Johnson Jr. on the left-hand side on that left tackle position. So overall, I think they're a pretty fantastic group here on the offensive side of the ball, but the defense is where it's really going to shine. And I feel like we're going to have a lot more position battles in this year's training camp with the defensive side of the ball. But the offensive side of the ball, you're going to see some people that's you might be shocked, right? But there will be some big key position battles here on the offensive side of the ball as well. And I'm very more than confident with, obviously, Jonathan Gannon and his coaching staff really putting the best 11 guys on the field to hopefully win us multiple games to the 2025 season. So let's get started here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and start off with the offensive side of the ball. Like I mentioned a little earlier, there's not really a lot of unknown when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. The defense is where it really kind of starts to gets a little murky just because all the depth that we have. But let's start off with the offensive side of the ball. I feel like the biggest battle we're going to be seeing here is going to be that wide receiver number 3 position. I'm actually really excited about this. Now, obviously, some other notable names to talk about. Now, I didn't add them on this graphic here, but Simi Fehoko, which is a guy that's been a veteran, has not really given much of an opportunity. I think he spent some time with the Dallas Cowboys as well as the Chargers as well. Now getting an opportunity here to potentially fight for a role. You also got a player like Zay Jones as well. Got Quez Watkins, which spent some time with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I feel like it's going to come down to maybe these two guys if I'm going to be putting my best effort out there. Greg Dortch most likely will be winning the wide receiver number 3 role. And then, of course, I have my favorite here, which is Xavier Weaver, which is a undrafted rookie that we ended up getting in the 2024 NFL draft, which not drafted. We got a part of the UDFA guys, but I'm really, really high in what he did in Boulder, Colorado with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. I feel like he did a really, really good job over there, but did not really get a big opportunity here in 2024 with the Arizona Cardinals. The biggest game we've seen, the most sample size we've seen from Xavier Weaver was most likely when that Green Bay Packers game happened where Marvin Harrison Jr. had to leave with an injury. So Xavier Weaver came in that role and didn't really have a big production game, but you saw him a lot more and given that opportunity. But I would love to see this battle kind of play out here in the 2025 training camp. I feel like Xavier Weaver needs to take advantage of an opportunity because this might be a spot where he's going to get his best opportunity to come on the field. Now, Greg Dortch, I think he is going to be the bona fide number 3 wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, and I don't think there's really any debate there. But I'm talking about for the longevity, right? I'm talking about a guy that can potentially be that big over 6 foot guy that can be up the middle of the field, could potentially be Xavier Weaver. Somebody that can spread the field. I don't think he's got explosive speed, but definitely can very well be a guy that can be a drag route guy, a slant route guy in the middle of the field. Xavier Weaver can be that big target up the middle where Greg Dortch, standing at 5'7", although plays very, very big for his, size. And I really do like Greg Dortch. I've said multiple times he plays like a dog in and out. He's a really good wide receiver, but I really want to see what Xavier Weaver can do in this year's training camp. Now, like I said before, I think the winner is going to be a consensus all across the board. It's most likely going to be Greg Dortch with the two bigger guys on the outside with Marv and Michael Wilson. But man, I really want to see what Xavier Weaver can do this year. And hopefully, I'm hoping he gets an opportunity. Maybe we can see somewhat of a split shares, what I'm hoping for at the end of the day. But I think it's a no-brainer. I think Greg Dortch is definitely going to win out that camp battle, and we'll have to kind of wait and see how it shakes out. Weaver's going to have a crazy, crazy training camp, and we'll have to kind of wait and see how that shakes out. But I do think it's going to be Greg Dortch heading into 2025 being number one guy at that slot position for the Arizona Cardinals, that number one wide receiver, number three for the Cardinals heading into 2025. Now let's move on over to the defensive side of the ball. Another big unknown out there, which I'm actually really excited about this potential position battle as well. I don't think it's much of a position battle. I do believe it's most likely going to be Akeem Davis-Gaither having that number one role at the middle linebacking core. And I've seen a few different interviews from him, and I really do like him as a person. I think he's going to be a really good player for the Cardinals, but there's a lot of intrigue with fourth-round pick out of Ohio State in Cody Simon. Now, a lot of people really do like him as a person, and I'm talking about Cody Simon and what he's played in Ohio State, national champion over there, and potentially a guy that's going to be the future middle linebacker for the Cardinals. Akeem Davis-Gaither, if I can remember correctly, I believe it was a 2-year deal that we ended up signing him for, so there might be some sort of play where Cody Simon might have a real shot at fighting for a middle linebacking role here in this defense. But I do think that the Cardinals won't be paying a guy for a 2-year deal and the amount of money that they did to ride him on the bench. Now, is this going to be a situation where we really see a true, you know, competition in training camp? Maybe, right? We're hearing Jonathan Gannon always saying that it's always an open competition, no matter where they drafted you, no matter if you're a free agent, no matter if you're a year 2, year 3 type of guy. If you're the number one, guy that beats that other person out, you most likely will have a role here. But I doubt the Cardinals will throw in a rookie, especially when you got a veteran that was a captain last year with the Cincinnati Bengals, that he's going to beat him out from the get. Now, or maybe midway through the season, maybe that might be different. Maybe towards the end of the season, maybe that might be different as well. But I do think Akeem Davis-Gaither most likely will be winning that camp battle. But this is going to be a very fascinating, position battle to see, right? Because at the very top, you got those two guys with Akeem Davis-Gaither and Cody Simon. After them, you got a couple other people to obviously know. You got J.J. Russell, which was a late acquisition for the Cardinals that I believe they ended up adding him, I would say maybe about a month and a half ago. It wasn't very long ago that ended up bringing him back. Then they also got OP as well, Owen Papu, as well as Michael Walker, which is another guy that they ended up bringing in free agency as well. And I believe he was a 1-year deal. So I don't think he's going to be a bona fide starter, but Akeem Davis-Gaither most likely will be that guy to win that battle at the middle linebacking core. But I'm really excited about Cody Simon. I really am. Maybe for 2026, or heck, you never know. Maybe even at the end of 2025. Just kind of really depends on what happens with the 2025 Arizona Cardinals. But I'm really excited to see what this camp battle is going to kind of play out into. Now, let's move on over and continue with the defensive side of the ball, the outside cornerback room. Now, I broke it apart to just these guys alone because I do believe that we got Garrett Williams in the slot position, right? Your nickel cornerback. And then on the outside, we're probably going to throw in Will Johnson into the fire to kind of say, all right, second round pick. You're supposed to be a first rounder. Let's see how it goes. Now, we might be seeing a world where we don't see number 0, right? AKA Will Johnson out there at the start of the season. There might be a real possibility, but I do think he's a shoe-in to be one of the starting outside corners for the Cardinals. This is where it gets a little murky to me, where I don't actually really know who's going to win this position battle. Now, I really do like our cornerback depth and who we have outside the top 4 guys, right? And I'm talking about Garrett Williams, Will Johnson, Max Melton, and Starling Thomas the fifth. Outside those guys, you got players like Denzel Burke, which is I believe a fourth round pick this last year. We got Elijah Jones was a third round pick last year, right? You got players on here that we got so much depth at the cornerback room that I'm actually really excited to see how this is going to shake out. But I do believe it's going to come down to these two guys, right? In terms of another outside guy, Starling Thomas the fifth and Max Melton. Max Melton was a former second round pick in the 2024 NFL draft for the Cardinals. And then you got Starling Thomas the fifth, which I believe he was a waiver claim for the Cardinals, but he has so far exceeded expectations. And I think he's a really solid, good cornerback on the outside. Now, are the Cardinals going to say, okay, you were a second round pick, Max Melton, here's your time to shine and throw him out there? That's a possibility. Or are they going to do what I said they weren't going to do probably about a minute or two ago? Are they going to be rolling with Max Melton and Starling Thomas the fifth and allow Will Johnson to kind of learn a little bit more? That's a real possibility as well, right? I don't have an answer for this one specifically, but I'm really curious to see where this cornerback position battle goes, right? Because, like I said, you got Keitrell Clark, you got Denzel Burke, you got Elijah Jones waiting for their opportunity. You got another guy in Jalen Jones, which I believe he was a former. He's a veteran, right? I don't think he's really going to get a big time opportunity with the Cardinals, but you got him as well, which is a veteran. So you got a lot of players here for the Cardinals that this position battle in the cornerback room is going to be very fascinating to see how it all shakes out. So I don't have an answer or a prediction on this one, but I feel like it's going to break down into these two guys for that second outside cornerback role, which in my prediction right now, I think it's Will Johnson on the outside, Garrett Williams on the nickel, and then on the other outside guy is going to be one of these two guys. Let me know what you guys' overall thoughts. Obviously, we all want to see what happens in training camp, who beats who out, but let me know your guys' prediction here in the comments below. And now let's go and move on over to another position battle here, which I'm really excited about. That's going to be the defensive line. Now, I did add some players on here. We got multiple players. I don't really have an answer for this one as well. This is another position where the Cardinals ended up bringing in a lot of depth and a lot of good / great players that's going to automatically help out our cornerbacks, our secondary, or everybody back there, our middle linebackers, just because of the big key pieces that we added on the defensive line for the Cardinals. And I don't think it's a shock to say that the Arizona Cardinals are probably the most improved defensive line in the entirety of the NFC West. Of course, adding Walter Nolan with the 16th overall pick in this last year's draft, you would end up bringing in Calais Campbell, a fan favorite, which was the guy that the Arizona Cardinals ended up drafting, and unfortunately, the former regime ended up letting him go. You got Darius Robinson going into his year 2, which there was a picture floating around where he was right next to Jonathan Gannon, and he made Jonathan Gannon look like a small guy, which he isn't. But Darius Robinson looks like the absolute Hulk. It's absolutely nuts. But the defensive line, just in general, I'm very curious to figure out how this is going to shake out. Now, Calais Campbell and Walter Nolan are probably going to be the guys that we're really going to have to figure out who's going to be, the starter heading into 2025, or what is this camp battle going to look like. I added Darius Robinson because every time I'm talking about the defensive line, there's always a comment or two saying, what about Darius Robinson? I think Darius Robinson is most likely going to kind of fight for a position with maybe a guy like Justin Jones, a veteran that was not healthy last year, which was one of the big time acquisitions that we ended up bringing here in 2024, along with Bilal Nichols. They were kind of guys that were more depth guys, but they were our big signings in 2024. But Darius Robinson is most likely going to have to battle that with Justin Jones, which I do think that he's going to beat out. But you also do got Walter Nolan and Calais Campbell, which most likely will battle it out. I do think Calais Campbell will have the edge over let's say, for example, Walter Nolan, because of the veteranness. And let's be real, he was one of the most dominant defensive linemen, even at his age when he was playing last year with the Miami Dolphins. He still has it. Like, it doesn't matter that he's pushing 40. This guy is still very, very productive. And I do think he's going to edge it out over Walter Nolan. But man, what a great, role model. Well, what a great person to learn from in Calais Campbell with Walter Nolan, most likely getting a lot more reps, but will be involved with a rotational type of defense, because I think that that's what the Cardinals are going to continue to do. Now, under this regime, we've never seen the weapons that we have now on the defensive line of the ball that we had in 2023 or 2024. So are we going to be seeing Josh Sweat with more of a 70, 75, 80% snap count compared to what we were seeing in the last 2 years, where we're seeing the max guy getting 65% of the snap count, right? Now that we have more NFL ready, really good, talented guys on the defensive side of the ball, we're probably going to start seeing more of an uptick in production from specific players. So, this is another camp battle that I'm really excited about, just the defensive line, just in general, to see how this all shakes out. Because believe it or not, we think it might be Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, and, BJ Ojolari on the other side, right? The other edge guy. But you never know. It could be a mix. It can be Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson, Walter Nolan. It could even be Zaven Collins on the other side, right? We don't know how this defensive line is going to shake out. The only one I'm really confident with right now is Dalvin Tomlinson and Josh Sweat being bona fide starters, right? Calais Campbell, most likely a starter because he still does it, but maybe at the end of 2025, he won't be the guy getting the most amount of snaps on the defensive line, but you never know at the end of the day. He might have an all-pro, Pro Bowl type of year again, so we'll have to kind of wait and see how that shakes out. But ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a very fascinating, exciting training camp, which will be starting up here in July 24th, which is not this Thursday, but the following Thursday. So training camp's around the corner. The Arizona Cardinals 2025 season is just about to kick off, or at least not just, but training camp is around the corner. Then you got preseason, and then you got regular season football, which starts up here in September. But ladies and gentlemen, what are your biggest position battles that I didn't mention here in this video? Let me know here in the comments below. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Have a great rest of your day, and go Cardinals.